this is week 3 of a series called Believe. And it is a series that is actually traditional in the first month of every new year in Centers for Spiritual Living. Looking at the basic ideas of this philosophy, this way of life, which some adopt as a religion and some accompany their religious or spiritual path with. Because we honor all paths. And yet at the core of this teaching is belief. And so this morning I'm talking about what belief does. And we had a guest speaker last week, and we're having one next Sunday as well. Our next guest speaker will be coming from Boca. He's from the CSL Boca Church down there, and his name is Jeff Kofelt. He's a licensed practitioner. Yes. And he's going to be teaching on belief as well. But I have the opportunity to talk about what belief does. And I love that. Because whether you call it belief or something else, there is this responsiveness in the universe to what we think about and what we focus on. And it produces results. This is always going on. It never stops. It's simply that our conscious awareness of it and our understanding, our deeper understanding of it, allows us to make use of this process, which is constantly going on, and to shift what shows up in our lives, and to do so with intention, and to do so with faith and trust and surety, to do so with confidence. And so the key to the outcome is belief. Interesting thing that we are surrounded by an infinite intelligence, and while these words were written a very long time ago, in the early 1920s and 30s, they were echoed again by Deepak Chopra in the past 10 or so, So it's become common knowledge that we're surrounded by this infinite intelligence, right? This field of infinite possibility. We're surrounded also by this substance. You hear me articulated as this pure spiritual substance. And the intelligence and the substance come together according to what? According to whatever impress is made upon the law of cause and effect, upon that substance. And it becomes that thing which we say that it is. Our guest speaker next week is going to be talking about the neuroscience of belief. And I can tell you that the quantum physics of belief says that what we focus on grows. That what we measure for is what we discover. That what we look for is what we find. That is the scientific proof of the ancient wisdom that it is done unto us as we believe. So, interesting. We're surrounded by an infinite intelligence and a substance that can become anything at all. And the way that it does that is through some kind of an outlet. And Ernest Holmes suggests that the outlet that is provided, must be provided for that to happen, is you and me. Is our minds. Not our intellect, not our busy brains, not our thinking really, but the knowingness that actually originates in our hearts. In our hearts. There are people from HeartMath who will tell you that the heart is the first organ in the body to sense everything. And then it sends messages to the brain, and then the thinking starts. So actually, when I talk about thinking, when I talk about belief, when I talk about mind, I'm talking about a little bit of a different interpretation than we may have had before. Divine mind with a capital N is that infinite intelligence. The divine body, if you will, the body of God, is that infinite substance that can become anything. Einstein said that energy equals mass squared. I didn't say that right. But energy and mass are equal. And what that means is that whether it's in the formless or the formed, whether it's in pure potential or reality, it's all one thing, all one substance, all one life. We call it God, call it spirit, call it creator, call it the I am principle, the absolute, the all it is. That part doesn't matter. What matters, though, is that we are so much more involved in this creative process than we may have ever known. And so when we talk about what belief does, we're talking about this key that it turns the lock, and it makes an opening for new reality, through recognizing that that intelligence is something that we share. There's a point of awareness within the mind of God that is in me, that is in each one of you, that is unique. And yet it accesses the same divine mind, infinite intelligence, the one. So at that level we are one. And it accesses the perfect pure spiritual substance, which will become whatever mold is presented to it, whatever design is impressed upon it. And that too is all one, even though it shows up as many different forms, as each of us, as all possibilities realized. So there's this little phrase that I came up with while I was studying, which is believe, become, behold. The first step is to believe in what we just talked about. That it all is. It always has been, always will be. It'll never take a hiatus. It'll never go fishing. It'll never take a cruise. It'll never be gone or off duty. It's always there. Then become. Here's where it gets interesting. Every law and principle in the universe, whether it's mixing colors or mixing ingredients to get a sponge cake that rises up like this, or a souffle that's nice and high, or something that tastes good. I made a big mistake the other day, and I made it for the second time. I was trying to make mashed potatoes for a shepherd's pie. I thought, oh, I'll just boil these little ones and put them in the food processor and push the button and then dump them in the pan. Well, they turned into glue, and they remained glue-like for eternity. I kept trying to bake them a little more till the gluiness would go away, and they would be back to what I wanted. But what I didn't understand, and I need to know before I go do this again, right? Is what are the principles of making mashed potatoes? There's a certain kind of potato. I was using a different one. There's a certain method for cooking them, and probably a time frame. Didn't check that either. And there's probably something about if you're going to use your food processor, well then don't use this blade, use that one, or else. So I did all these things that were wrong because I didn't know, and my outcome was very undesirable. But if I'm willing to do some research and to study and to understand until I truly know all of the properties of the potatoes and necessary for my desired outcome, then I'm allowed to make shepherd's pie again and we'll actually enjoy it, right? Okay? But that's really what it is about everything. When I was a kid, I wanted to make a red, white, and blue cake. Now, I knew that the cake recipe was going to make it a white cake. So I thought if I dumped in red and blue, that it would just be striped or something. It was actually brownish purple and tasted horrible. And by the way, I also didn't follow the recipe. It was a sponge cake. And instead of being 6 inches high, it was about this thick. It was like a purple brick. Okay? I think my family politely tried to eat it. This is the same thing, though, when we want an outcome. We need to understand how the principles work that produce that outcome, whether it's flight, whether it's cooling our home, lighting our home, warming it up. You know, whether it's cooking something or building something. Did you ever build anything in wood shop? I tried to build a cage for my rabbit, and I didn't know anything about joists. I didn't know anything about securing the structure so it would remain square for the duration. And so I built this thing that was square until I tried to use it, and then it leaned over and fell apart. The same thing is true with the principles that we are working with. What happens when I think a thought is that feeling follows. And when I have a feeling, the creative process kicks in. And when the creative process kicks in, the infinite, pure, spiritual substance of the universe responds and gives to me according to what I have set in motion. There's a funny thing, because there really is a big difference between what we think we believe and what we really believe. Here's where becoming comes into the picture. Because when you really know something, Ernest Holmes says, when you really know it, you embody it. And when you embody it, then it's who you are, right? It's second nature. It's how you operate. It's your MO. People know that about you eventually. When you're changing, just don't worry about what other people think. Okay? So what happens is that really, in order to behold what we desire as our outcome, to say, yep, there it is, it's a reality now, we actually have to become it. Uh-oh. We can sit at fancy cafes, some of us on bar stools, some of us at home or in classes or groups or anywhere, and spout about what we believe. But then we go home and we realize the difference between what we say we believe and how our lives are showing up. One of my favorite teachers, whom we're very familiar with, is Reverend Mary Morrissey. She should be doctor by now. Anyway, Mary Morrissey says, pay attention to your longing and your discontent. Okay, so you know what? I have what I definitely believe, and it is evidenced in my experience. Then I have what I really want to believe, because it's what I know is possible. And it's what I want to experience, but it's not what's going on in my life. You know why that is? Because I don't yet understand it to the point where it is who I am. When Gandhi said, be the peace you wish to see in the world, he was actually quoting the same teaching. He was saying the same truth, I should say. Become the peace you wish to see in the world. Become whatever it is. You want more time? Give time. You want more money? Give more money. You want to be appreciated more? Appreciate more. You want to be loved more? Love more. Become whatever that is that you want to see more of. That's why arguing doesn't work. That's why wars don't work. That's why protests don't work. You can stand for what you believe in. You can speak for what you believe in. You can walk for what you believe in. Just make sure that every fiber of your being is that thing, that peace, that love, that harmony, rather than fighting against it. Because if you're fighting against something, you're becoming that. And what do you get? You get more of that. So actually, this idea that we must become something in order to behold it is really what belief does. Ernest Holmes says that any law, any principle will give everything that it's got to us, for us, to the degree that we understand it. And we want to understand it till we become it. Like I said, the cooking examples were perfect, relatable examples. They also apply to electricity. Now, unless you're an electrician, I'm assuming that you would call upon one or entrust one to take care of all matters regarding electricity in your life. Right? You either become the person who knows how to do that, or you get someone who does. That's how we work together. So we're saying that we want to believe. We're also saying that we want to behold things that aren't here yet, but we know they're possible. And so they needed us. And we have an opportunity to find a way to become them. Well, I'll tell you, this little packet, this little grouping of things that I call my little bucket of longing and discontent, those are areas where I've had an ideal well up in me, a possibility. And I've fallen in love with it and started to follow it, and then I realized, oh my gosh, I might offend someone. I might have to take a risk. I might lose something. And so possibly, this is me admitting that I think that's why there's a difference between what I aspire to and what I'm experiencing. Quite possibly, somewhere in there, I wasn't so sure that I could become that. So it's safer to be aspiring. In A Course in Miracles, it says that the ego loves to convince us that we're making very good progress towards becoming the most wonderful spiritual people, most loving spiritual people. And yet, if we were to actually succeed, the ego, as it has been, would be out of a job. Because its job has been to operate based on fear and to protect and to defend. So somehow, we've got to get over the hump between what we believe and what we want to behold by being willing to become more. Now here's the beauty of it. I see that I have the back of an earring, by the way, on the ground, and I still have both my earrings on. That's good. Okay. Here's the interesting part. The very thing that wants to be more is love itself. Ernest Holmes says that love points the way. And law, the law of cause and effect, we now call it the law of attraction, makes the way possible. Ernest Holmes, our founder, says that when spirit seeks, as it always does, some new form of embodiment and expression and experience to know itself in a greater way, it does so by means of its creations, by means of you and me, by means of creating anew, creating more. And so what if this curiosity, this seeking, this desire for more that sometimes shows up as longing and discontent is just a little thwarted, and what it really is love saying, what about this? We could do that. Because in the infinite, right, there is no boundary. There's no, well, I'm not sure if this is the right time. There's no sense that it might not be possible. Not in the infinite. And so when we are willing to take the risk and to tap into that part of ourselves that is also infinite, we can entertain those possibilities without fear. And then we come back down back into the room after the meditation, or back down to earth after our lofty spiritual experience, and we get to find a way to fit it in to what we think, and what we feel, and what we say, and what we do. And if we're willing to become, Ernest Holmes says, willing and able, if we're ready to become what we believe, and risk that might produce a little friction, a little change, a little something, in our environment, love will point the way. And law, that mechanical, responsive part of the universe that always gives according to what is put into it, will provide everything. The outpicturing, the nourishment, the sustenance, the supply, the circumstances, everything. Because they are automatically attracted to this idea. So what we're talking about really is that, yes, belief is key. Even more so is becoming. And when we see that we would like to behold a different world, that we would like to behold a world in which there is more harmony, what we do is we go back and we study this idea that goodness is Spirit's first law, that harmony is Spirit's first law, that it must show up as unity, and the only reason that it doesn't is because we have not yet understood that enough so that it is who we are, so that it's how we show up, so that it's what we think about, it's what we feel, it's what we believe, it's what we say, it's what we do, it's what we behold. It's a very interesting thing then. On the one hand, we can say, in the safety of our beautiful assembly this morning, all you have to do is believe. All you have to do is study and understand to the point where you really know anything from how to make mashed potatoes to how to make a better world, and you will become that person. Your life will become that experience. And yes, it may take a while. It probably wouldn't feel very good if it happened all at once. It does happen all at once to some people, and they get funny looks, right? Okay. So, and we're saying that that's very nice, and if we'll do those two things, if we will believe and we will become to the best of our ability, then we will behold a new experience. We can look at it that way as a promise. We can also look at it from the other end as a challenge, as an invitation to say, would you like to behold the world that you know is possible? And if you say yes, would you be willing to risk knowing more? To risk understanding more? To risk having a different idea or feeling, different words, different actions and choices than somebody right next to you? Would you be willing to stop caring about what others think and tune in to that divine idea of perfection, the direction of love, the divine intelligence within you, and let it show you the way? Would you be willing to believe more in that? That's the invitation, and in some cases, a challenge. I'll tell you that I realized just over the past week that there's this whole body of things that love welling up in me has thought about going to do or including in what this center does. And so many of them have been set aside for earthly sensibilities, for later when. And they're labeled as if-onlys. I'm going to take those labels off. And I hope you will too. I'm going to take those labels off, and I'm going to look at those things again, and I'm going to allow myself, I'm going to court those ideas. And let them and me fall in love again, and follow them this time. And take a risk, and be willing to become those things. Because I'm ready to behold the world that they result in. And I know that I cannot hang out in the safety of my comfortable beliefs, of what I already know. I know that I am, that you are, that we are designed to evolve. And so as our belief grows us, and our becoming constantly becomes more, we do behold a new world, a new earth. That's how it happens. So I invite you, no matter what is on your mind today, to just remember this simple formula. Believe, absolutely. Become that belief by knowing it as you've never known it before. And trust. And behold a new outcome. Thank you.